everyone, and welcome to LanguageCaster.com, the football language podcast for learners and teachers of English. This is Damien, and I, along with Damon, who's based in Japan, form the LanguageCaster team. And over the next month or so, we will be explaining some of the words and phrases from the 2022 World Cup currently taking place in Qatar. On this short podcast, I'll be looking at the classic football cliche, a game of two halves, from the Wales versus USA match.
Você está escutando languagecaster.com.
The phrase, a game of two halves, is one of the great football cliches. Remember that a cliche is a saying that, although it may have lost some of its power or indeed its original meaning, is still happily used by a group of people who share common interests. They are a bit of fun. In football, there are lots and lots of football cliches, phrases that we love to use, even though we know they may sound a little strange or even cheesy. Perhaps one of the most famous of these cliches is a game of two halves, which is not simply a description of how a typical match is divided into two 45-minute parts, but this phrase has much more meaning behind it. A game of two halves could suggest that the first half of a game is quite dull, boring, and defensive with few attacking plays, while the second half is the opposite, lots of attacks, end-to-end football, and maybe goals and incidents. So, if one half is very different from the other half, we can use this cliche. Perhaps the most common usage, though, is when one team is much, much better than their opponents in the first half. They totally outplay them, but then after the break, their opponents play much better than them. And this is what happened in the Wales versus USA match on day 2 of the 2022 World Cup. In the first half, the US team dominated the Welsh side. They outplayed them and didn't let them play their own game. They took the lead through Weah and really should have added more goals to their total, but Wales got to half-time only 1-0 down. Of course, at half-time, the managers have a chance to talk to their team. Maybe they shout at them to try and raise their game, or maybe they simply make a tactical change or switch. The Welsh manager, Rob Page, made a switch by bringing on a big centre-forward, Kiefer Moore, and his hold-up play helped bring the Welsh team back into the game. The momentum changed, and suddenly the American press was not as strong as the first half, and Wales were starting to pressure their opponents. Then, in the 82nd minute, Gareth Bale won and then scored a penalty to earn the Welsh team a valuable point. Wales were resurgent in the second half, which means that they came back to life and they went onto the front foot. They attacked much more, while the US team either ran out of steam or energy or did not know how to react to the Welsh changes. Both teams shared the points and will feel they still have a chance of progressing to the knockout stages. But this was a definite example of the phrase, a game of two halves.
Hola a todos, estáis escuchando languagecaster.com.
Now, if you want to ask any football language questions or simply say hello during the World Cup, then you can do so by adding a comment on our site here or by using our forum. You can also send us an email at admin@languagecaster.com, and you can also look out for us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Don't forget to join our predictions competition, which you can find on our site. It's 3 points for a perfect prediction and 1 point for a prediction that is right but doesn't have the exact score. No one in the competition picked up any points from the shock of the tournament so far, Saudi Arabia's win over favourites Argentina. Come along and join in.
Właśnie słuchasz languagecaster.com.
Yes, you are listening to Language Caster, and that message was from a Polish fan. It would be great to hear from anyone else who might like to share this message. You are listening to languagecaster.com. Don't forget there's a transcript to this short podcast, and there's lots of vocabulary support which you can access by coming along to our site. We think it's a great resource for those learning and teaching the language. Okay, that's it for this second of our daily World Cup football language podcast. We looked at the football cliche, a game of two halves. Let's see if there are any more examples of these kinds of games over the next couple of weeks. We'll be back with some more World Cup football language tomorrow. Enjoy all the football. Bye bye.